Customers ask us all the time how we can test, or if we can test, assembled motors. This is an example of an assembled motor test. I already have the motor ID plugged into the instrument. We're going to start a new test set. In the test description field, I'm going to say assembled, so we can keep track of what we're doing here. Test stage, incoming use, for example, operator information. Now I'm going to go to our setup screen. I'm going to leave it at the default test voltage, 2 times operating plus 1000. I'm going to leave the default humidity and winding temperature as well. Auto mode limit setup. We know that this motor is good, and we are really only interested for the purpose of this video to show the surge test to begin with. So I'm going to deselect all the other tests and leave the surge checked. Say exit setup, start full auto test, hit the red button. It will now do the surge test in lead 1, followed by lead 2, and then lead 3, and calculate the line-to-line percent wave difference. So this is a very common test result for assembled motors. You can see the waveforms are very dampened, meaning that you only have essentially one peak here on the rising edge and then a second peak before it flattens out and falls off to 0. The problem in the old days was that we had no real way of telling if this is a good or bad surge test. It says surge fail because the percentages are now exceeding our default plus minus 10% threshold. However, we have the knowledge and the capability to test this and say that it's a good or bad motor. The way to do that is to use the pulse-to-pulse feature. So if I click this button, P to P, redo the test here in a manual fashion in phase 1, click the red button. It's going to ask, do you want to override? Say yes. It will now ramp up the voltage in small increments and calculate the percent wave difference between each voltage step. We're going to do that in phase 1, 2, and 3. Override. So that was phase 2. Now let's look at phase 3 here at the end. I'm going to hide the other ones. The purpose here is to make sure that there is no significant left shift or change in the inductance as we step up the voltage. So we start at approximately 50 volts and increase the test voltage in 25 volt increments all the way up to our design test voltage. The percentage you see here in the right column is the largest percent wave difference throughout that voltage range. So if you click any of the numbers, we populate a bar chart where each blue bar represents the percent wave difference between the current voltage step and the previous voltage step. If there is at any point an arc where we lose a turn or several turns in that phase, you'll have a very tall blue bar where the insulation broke down and we lost some amount of inductance. That would be considered a failed test. In this case, we have percentages that are all less than our default plus minus 15%, and we can see that this is now a passed motor. Click the folder button to exit out of the test set. Everything is automatically stored. Okay, that was the manual way of checking an assembled motor. Let's do the automated fashion. Now that you know that you have an assembled motor, we can go through the same setup here. Enter in your information, test setup screen, and leave the voltage to the default, auto mode. Again, we're only going to do the surge test. And now we're going to select the pulse to pulse from the beginning. Exit setup, start full auto test. When I hit the red button, we will now do the pulse to pulse surge test in phase 1, 2, and 3 from the beginning. We will also get our line-to-line results, but this way you save some time, and it's obviously in an automatic fashion. So that's phase 1. Now we're doing phase 2. You can see that they aren't perfectly overlapped, just like we saw previously. And phase 3. So the column on the left side up here is our line-to-line comparison, while the column on the right side is our pulse-to-pulse. That's the individual phase compared to itself throughout the voltage range. Again, very similar results to what we just saw. And a summary, all pass. We are good to go.